Uh, Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to this panel discussion. So, Desert Hack is a week-long hackathon conducted by students of CEL BITS Pilani across all the three campuses. Our aim is to promote entrepreneurial thinking and problem solving among students. In this hackathon, students are given an opportunity to put themselves into the shoes of a startup founder. I would now like to welcome our speakers. Our first speaker for today is Kush Taneja, an IIT Roorkee pass out and the founder of FamPay. FamPay has crossed more than 100K downloads for their app, and it aims to raise awareness amongst the new generation of Indians by teaching teens money management and giving them a sense of independence for making monetary transactions. Our second guest for today is Anirudh Singla, a fellow Bitsian and a recent graduate from BITS Pilani, and the co-founder of Pepper. He formed a startup in sophomore year, and he through Pepper he aims to produce content for a variety of commercial purposes, and now caters to more than 400 clients, including Swiggy, Reliance, and BookMyShow. I would like to welcome both of you.
Hi,
Thanks,
Dhruv.
Dhruv.
Yeah, that
Hello.
was a overwhelming introduction. Thanks to Desert Hack for having us here.
It's our
Yeah,
pleasure.
good, good to be back in seeing a lot of familiar bits and faces.
Yeah. So our first question for both of you is: can you all tell us a little bit more about your startup and what it does exactly? Anirudh, if you could start with you.
Sure. So essentially, we're building a content marketplace platform. Essentially, it's an on-demand content experience that we're building. On one end, we have creative professionals. These are freelancers. So we have content writers, graphic designers, and now over time we're looking to have more and more kinds of professionals. So eventually, video editors, uh, and take this through the entire gamut of creators in general. And on the other end, we have brands who are looking to get content done. Now, what Pepper does is it matches the best fit creators with the best fit projects from brands. Though there is no direct interaction involved, but there's a smart algorithm that we've created that helps us match these writers, and we facilitate the entire content operations part of it. Going forward, what we're looking to build is a platform which helps strategize, create, collaborate, and distribute content from one platform itself. Just think about the fact that, say, if Canva is integrated on Pepper's platform, or InVideo is integrated, or any other platform that can help create content faster, and eventually any content you're creating from Pepper's platform can directly be integrated to your website or your social media feed from Pepper's platform, and eventually you can leverage analytics over that. So everything content on one platform essentially. So eventually aim is to build a remote content team for any kind of company, be it an enterprise or a startup. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting, Anirudh. Uh, yeah, Kush, can you please tell us a little bit
Yeah,
more
yeah,
about
sure.
FamPay?
So, yeah, guys, FamPay is India's first neobank for teenagers. And in India, there are around 250 million teenagers, and out of that, 120 million are active on internet. They contribute to the 50% of Indians who are using mobile phones, smartphones, and using apps like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. But they don't have access to bank accounts. They don't have access to digital payments. They were still operating on cash, or either they were taking their parents' credit card. So we started with a mission when we were in college to provide financial education to this new generation. And on the journey, we realized they are unbanked right now. They have access to these things, but they know how to do it, but they don't have it. They are unable to do that because nobody is targeting them. So this was a blind spot we identified, and we started working on the idea itself. Post that, we applied to YC, and YC was again a great head start for us, considering it's very hard for freshers and college grads to start a fintech company. It was really hard to understand how things work, and having support and network of YC helped us go through that. And now we, as Dhruv said, we have crossed 100K downloads, and we have various active users using the app. Plus, we also launched India's first numberless debit card. It has absolutely no numbers and it's very cool, which matches to the vibe and it is more secure. We also provide UPI payments without opening a bank account, and it's all just 2 minute process. So the kids love it, and it's kind of an Instagram version, and it's social. It's more fast and it's more fun.
Thank you so much, Kush, for that information. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question for you all is, could you walk us through your process of thinking and ideating to achieve the product market fit for your startup, the product?
Got it. Great. So I think, see, for Pepper initially, so there's two, three kind of things, right? You either start with a product and then you get traction and then you scale it, or you start with, say, a service and then you try to productize it. So for us, it was the second part. We didn't start with the product. We built on a very strong service model and eventually broke down each and every process into a productized manner of that. So for us, I think Pepper found the problem market fit first, because content was a real problem for everyone. Almost all customers needed it today. Everyone's a customer for Pepper. I go on saying that every company is going to be a content company in the coming time, because differentiation is something that's needed for every brand. And so we hit a problem market fit right very well. We were able to identify that super interestingly. Now that's where it's like that old saying that Reid Hoffman said, where you fell down a cliff and then you build that parachute yourself. To I think that's what happened with us, where we started embarked on the journey, and eventually in the entire process we realized each and every component that could be productized. It obviously was a very hard find, because commoditizing something like content is super tough. Services businesses are often thought of as unscalable. So that notion of breaking with customers, teammates, we spend a lot of countless nights figuring out what part could, what part couldn't, and then understanding and also realizing that there are only certain products that you can build. Because what happens with a lot of folks who start early is, everyone's very excited about building a product, but why are you building a product that no one wants, unless you have that level of research that you do. And very few people have that uh, tenacity that allows them to understand, get user feedback from the very start. A lot of folks even don't know how to do that. So hence, for us, I think product market fit is something. We're launching our product next month, and already 400 customers are using it in a private beta currently. I think we will find it very soon, and we're also in a growth journey. But yeah, I think we have a very strong problem market fit we've identified.
Problem market fit is a new thing that many of us might have learned today. I hadn't heard that term before. That was very insightful to hear. Thank you,
Interesting thing
Kush.
is to stop phrasing it as terms, because
Yeah.
a lot of these terms you start building की startup terminology है. There is no terminology. It's
Right.
मैं ऐसे बोल दिया बस. Don't think of this as term कि नहीं मेरे को ये solve करना है. Solve the problem first. Solve your customers' needs, and then start maybe formalizing on these things.
Thank you, Anirudh. Uh, Kush, if you could.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. So that's very great, Anirudh. You mentioned it in a right way. If you define product, what does product do? Product basically solves a problem. So essentially, it comes out to the problem, and that is what drives everything, and that is what is the only motivation factor. So for us, we again identified the problem first, and that is what we believed in. And you just marry the problem, right? And you just feel the problem, and then you solve it. And howsoever the challenges are, you on the journey identify more problems and solve it. So for us, as we are a consumer company, and the users were using cash to pay right now before FamPay. So for us to achieve a product market fit or something what people want, as YC says, make something people want. So for us to achieve that, we need some kind of validation, and we definitely needed an MVP or a product in their hands, and we wanted to see how they use it, how it changes their life, and if it is, how impactful is it, and how for how many people can it be. So we built an MVP before even applying to YC, and we experimented with few users. We went to shopping malls, and we talked to a lot of teams and asked them if you could try this MVP. It was very buggy, and it was a web app, a mobile web app, PWA, which enabled payments for them. So we tested with them, and we learned a lot through that as well. The kids were still opening the website and paying, even if it was buggy and it was not as aesthetic as other payments are, but the only thing they have, right? Because they were having no option, so they were using it every day, and that helped us to validate the problem statement itself. That okay, sahi hai, ye problem sahi hai. We should understand it more. We started talking to these users. There was around 150 to 200 at that time, and उनसे हमने काफी कुछ सीखा. We questioned them, how is it changing, कहाँ कहाँ पे वो pay कर रहे हैं, how are they interacting with the parents, and what exactly is the journey now. And uske baad we were confident enough that banking is an essential thing. They need it, and everyone at the age of 18 open a bank account. So for us now, the only thing we need to figure out is how to acquire the market, and how we will change this need to want. That a lot of the portion of the market wants this product. They love it, and they refer it to their friends, and they just talk about it. So we did a lot of various experiments when we got the license from the bank, and we gamified the entire experience. We made it very smooth, and it was totally unconventional. It was just like sending a message or a photo on Instagram, but you were sending money in this case. So slowly, we were on a journey where we identified a lot of users who love us, and now we call them pro users, and we have various cohorts and definitions in our systems where if a user performs certain action, he is identified as a pro user. So now we are looking in the product market direction as if we achieve 1,000 or 10,000 users who love us, rather a million users who just like us and uninstall the app. So for us, those users who either open the app every day or pay at least 5 or 6 times a month, those are the users who actually love and are loyal. And the more the number, the better it is. So market always wins, and we always are in the user first position, and we always learn from them and move forward in that direction.
Thank you, Coach. That was very interesting to hear. Now, my third question for you all is: how did you reach out to your potential investors, and when do you think is the right time for an early stage startup which is just conceptualized out of a college to reach out to investors in startup? Kush, if you could go first.
Sure. So it depends the market segment, and if it's B2B, B2C. For some startups or some sectors, traction is the most important thing, and then only you can think of raising funds. And it also boils down to a single point that for the next step of your startup, do you need money? That is the first question the founders need to answer. And for various ideas, they don't. And they should not go for fundraising, and they should start with whatever the resources they have. For us, it was fintech, and for fintech, whenever we approached to a bank or any other third-party vendor who could help us give the payment APIs, they asked us for the company registration, the revenue, how much money do you have in the bank, and stuff like that. So that was the very first step we couldn't even proceed with. So for us, fundraising was important at that time, but so for some startups it will be traction. For some startups it will be the belief in the problem. For example, we can't proceed without money, right? So हमें prove करने के लिए we needed a validation factor that we will be able to do it, and this is the correct market, this is the right way to approach it. So our the right time for us was when we have certain affection from our users, even if we didn't have the product. We were talking to them, we did research, and we did various experiments. So when we had a decent number of interactions with those users, and also a solid way to proceed, that was the right time for us. And fortunately, we applied to YC, and someone like us who was in college and learning about entrepreneurship from other founders, an accelerator helps a lot. And even if you have just the idea and you don't know how to proceed, still these accelerators are there who help you proceed for the next steps of your startup, and they you give you decent amount of money to survive and do the first 2 3 steps of your startup. So for us, YC was really helpful. 3 months was a head start. They gave us around 150K dollars and a huge network of founders and great YC partners who helped us. So in 3 months, we did a lot of experiments, and when one experiment exploded, we were around having 20K users in 3 months, and training number one on Play Store with the MVP itself. We went ahead for funding, and the investors were really excited about the fact that even in college we were so much driven about the problem statement, and this is what we have done until now. So it was easy, and as Paul Graham said that startup equal to growth, and that's it. Once the investors can see the growth, the investors can see the potential, and they can see as a founder driven by the problem statement, that's the right time, and they invest at that time. So you should go ahead when you are very clear about the problem statement and the journey ahead. And also, if you think a lot of people want this, and this is a huge problem statement to solve.
Right. Thank you so much, Coach. Anirudh?
I think for us is very interesting. So after my 3-2 4-1 वाला जो phase होता है, we applied to YC back then. We didn't get in that time. We tried again, but we've gone to YC twice. We've been rejected twice. First time पे we got to the interview stage. बैंगलोर में इंटरव्यू हुआ था हमारा, एंड our target market was very small that time. So back then, coming back from Bangalore, that's where we realized कि यार अब तो करना ही है. So that's where we then decided to move to Mumbai, and Mumbai में flat लेके we started. So for us, when we raised our first seed round, we raised about 2.2 crores from Kunal Rohit from Snapdeal and some other marquee investors. At that time, so far we had done about 1.75 crores of revenue already. तो उनको भी लगा जब कोई 20 लाख का मंथली रेवेन्यू कर रहा है कॉलेज में, तो फॉर देम दैट वाज अ वेरी बिग ट्रैक्शन पॉइंट फॉर, एंड still that time no product. So a lot of it is also the team based thing. Early stage investing is just team based, honestly. You don't have that product. These are investors who've seen the best in the best, so they also really don't care at that point of time. They just see how driven you are, like Kush was also mentioning, and they see how the kind of team is. And we've been lucky to have a very strong foundational team. In fact, everyone who started, the main folks from college are still working with us at good leadership positions. So for us, I think the seed round वैसे हुआ था. Obviously fight था. We reached out to 80 angels. शुरू में तो बहुत ही मुश्किल होता था, but it's all about getting the first check in. So a lot of juniors used to come to me and talk to me about raising funds and all of that. And one very clear advice is, so see, investment is never an asset; it's always a liability. It's so you need to be very particular about that. अभी तो फील में हसल में कर रहे हो, बट रियल टाइम पे जैसे ही ऑब्लिगेशन आता है, राइट, of a third person on you, right, then it becomes very imperative for you to know your shit, and also at the same time know where you're heading. So whenever you are planning to do something like this, don't do this based on if you see other colleagues or seniors doing this. It's not that fame game wala cheez. It's very real. So for that one, you as well as your team, everyone needs to be very aligned on the same page कि सबको यही करना है क्या. मतलब ऐसा नहीं हो सकता इन्वेस्टर मीट में एक फाउंडर जाके फंड्स रेज कर रहे हैं, दूसरा जॉब ढूंढ रहा है. तो ये एंड बहुत रियल है, बिकॉज यू हैव योर फैमिलीज, पेरेंट्स, एंड nothing unreal about this. So you need to really work on that tuning and that vision कि हाँ यार अपने को करना है long term तक. So that is number one. Number two, I think first check तक आना थोड़ा fight होता है. Once that happens, तो it gets very good. We got oversubscribed by twice the amount in our seed round, and for us, once we started building the team, so we made a very good bet with the first set of investors. First set of investors are very important, you know, because uh, immediately, I think Kush, you guys also went to YC and then got Sequoia in, right?
Yeah, we had Sequoia and many other great angels.
Yeah, so honestly that matters a lot. So for us, I think going to like a micro VC or angels helped us a lot. They helped us get more number of customers. एंड फिर अराउंड जून जुलाई की बात है, हम लोग सोच रहे थे स्केल करने का, ग्रोथ टीम वाइज प्रोडक्ट भी निकलने लग गया था. दैट्स व्हेन लॉट ऑफ इनबाउंड वीसी इंटरेस्ट शुरू से ही था. सो बाय द टाइम वी वर साइनिंग अ टर्म शीट, वी वर प्लानिंग टू मतलब एक्टिवली गो इन द मार्केट. हमारा राउंड एक ही हफ्ते में क्लोज हो गया था. तो वी गॉट 3 VCs.
Yeah, matlab, you get the term sheet in 2 hours. You just need to figure out the right time and the right way.
So
Everyone will come behind.
हाँ वो फिर पीछे हो जाता है. एंड इट्स नॉट एज इजी एज वी बोथ आर मेकिंग इट साउंड लाइक ऑल्सो. मतलब उसके पीछे फाइट भी बहुत है. तो getting the right folks on your side is very important from the very start. But वही है guys, I think more than all of this funding, investors interest, right, uh, build first a customer funded company, right? That is very important. If you're just building up, if you're starting with a product, then build a product customers love. Then these two things need to check box before you seriously make your mind to raise further funds. Because एक बहुत tricky चीज होती है, lot of startups die from a seed stage to a series A stage, and even more from series A.
Only 10% graduate from seed to series A.
राइट. तो सोच लो, मतलब 0% अटेंडेंस का भी रूल नहीं है, तो कोई बचेगा भी नहीं. तो वही है कि it becomes very important कि once you have investors also on board, then it becomes that very high growth wala pace, and it will go out of your mind. And obviously 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, there's a lot to learn out there in the market. So it's also a very self-learning process for you guys.
I think it's safe to say that investors invest in the team.
Yeah, that's for the start. Yeah.
So we have a few questions from our audience. The first one is for Kush. How can one deal with legal hurdles that come up while building a fintech company?
I wish I could answer that question. I can still try because I'm also in the learning phase. And if you ask me the biggest challenge, that is only the one. By legal and by regulatory, the only thing you have to do is work with the banks, because as a startup and as an early stage startup, you're not in a position to apply for a license, or you yourself become a regulator entity. You have to partner with a bank or any regulated entity. So for that, you need to convince them, and to convince them, you need to first convince yourself, and second, you need to understand if that's beneficial for them, if that partnership is fruitful for them. So for us, it was very special case as well, because we were targeting a segment which nobody has ever done. And if you look at Paytm, Google Pay, or any other fintech app, everyone has a terms and condition that you should be 18 and above. And that is why, because in India, the contract is considered void if you are 18 minus. So if you are signing a terms and condition, you have to be 18 plus, or you need a guardian. So nobody has taken that hassle of getting the guardian on board and getting a 18 minus on board. So for us, we targeted this segment, and especially for teenagers, you just can't sell them flight tickets. There are so many regulations just for this sensitive market, and we married this market with a regulatory product known as fintech, जिसमें अलग fraudsters होते हैं, there are terrorists, there are money laundering, बहुत सारा कुछ होता है इसमें. तो वो सब भी हैंडल करना होता है. So for us, we first focus on the fundamentals and how things work, and we interacted with a lot of fintech founders, because if you Google or if you search, you'll not find any useful resource about fintech or regulations. You need to talk to a lot of people, or you have to read all the regulations and all the rule books and stuff. So we chose the second path. We went to fintech founders and we interacted with them. And also we found a law firm which helps fintech. So these guys help you understand exactly how things work, what exactly banks are trying to say. And for the bank, it also, money matters a lot. That how much money will you give them in their pool account? Because ultimately they are there for business, right? And even if they are giving you a savings account for your personal use, they're still making money out of it by giving that money to loans or something. So it works the same for fintech as well. So they try to understand how much money you have in the bank account and how much can you give them or invest in their products. And in return, they'll give you the regulatory partnership you need, and you can build your own product. So to figure it out, you need to understand the fundamentals. You need to understand what exactly you want from the bank, and if you have that much money or resources or network. For example, for us, most of the introductions were done by YC partners and various founders at YC. Like Razorpay was also a YC bank, so we reached out to them and they introduced us to other banks. So this also helps because uh, there are so many people working at ICICI Bank. So who will you reach out to, and how much is the chance that they'll reply to you? So you need to build relationships with people in the industry, and you need to have a little bit capital and that courage to prove them that you can handle the legal risk, and you can make a product which people can trust their money with, because that is also, this is a responsible market, and here you just can't do anything wrong. If you do, you are out. They'll cancel, they'll terminate your licenses, and it will be very hard to. And it's also it's a question on image as well, because if for example, Yes Bank recently had a incident where now people are finding it hard to trust. So you need to work with founders, experienced founders, and you need to understand the relationship with the regulator.
Thank you, Kush. I'm sure that was very helpful for everyone. The next question is for Anirudh. Anirudh, the question is, how do you deal with the problem of scalability of content?
Yeah, like what we're doing here, essentially. But वही कर रहे हैं. I think it's about solving operations first before scaling up distribution. So if I were to break this down for you, customer से content किस parameters पे लिया जाता है. There's multiple types of content. So see, there's a blog post, there's a PR, there's a social media post, there's a white paper, ebook. हर एक कंटेंट टाइप का ना ब्रीफ अलग होता है इंडस्ट्री में, एंड द क्रिएटर नीड्स द राइट इन्फॉर्मेशन टू क्रिएट द बेस्ट आउटपुट. तो अभी तक क्या होता है इसकी इस इंडस्ट्री में एवरीथिंग इज वेरी प्रिमिटिव. एवरीथिंग वाज हैपनिंग थ्रू गूगल शीट्स, डॉक्स, मेल्स एंड व्हाट्सएप. Bringing all of this to a platform was very important. So for a very strong period of time, right, we used to work in sheets, docs, mails, and try to optimize stuff, create processes कि हम scalability बढ़ा पाए system की. Currently, Pepper does, I think, about 8 to 10,000 content pieces a month, and scale कर रहे हैं. And we're making a system so operationally scalable कि we can do 50,000. Itna volume. The moment we touch 50,000 content pieces a month, we are touching volumes of Upwork and Fiverr, which are publicly listed companies. So point is to figure out operational scalability first, and then it's about product hooks. So say something as us being able to create enable content to be posted directly to your website or to your social media through Pepper is a very strong hook. So कल को how we position it to then eventually enterprises is use Pepper's platform as a workspace to manage all your content projects. And so then they're not just perceiving us, our target market is not defined by the net outsourceable revenue that a customer is willing to pay for content, but it eventually starts to be the salaries of their internal team members also, because the moment people realize कि हाँ यार content पेपर पे कर रहे हैं, पेपर का टैलेंट मार्केट प्लेस भी है एंड एक टाइम के बाद स्केल करना है, तो देन व्हाई डू आई इवेंचुअली नीड माय कंटेंट टीम? Can Pepper just be like my remote content team at Skill, and I have like one person to manage that end to end for them? So it's about that. And then scalability also comes from expanding in different verticals. Like in our market, we started with text focused, very deep down went into vertical text. Now we're expanding to graphics, eventually aim is to move to video and audio. And once content creation is done, we don't want to stop there, we want to move into marketing also. So that's how you eventually start formulating your vision. And uh, need है market में, तो obviously customers also support something like this.
Thank you so much, Anirudh. I have one more question for both of you all. So many people in the industry have different views on when to start entrepreneurship. Some believe that you need to take your time, learn about, be in the industry, learn about the industry, and then start a startup or begin your entrepreneurial journey. And some believe that you need to work on your skills by ideating daily, by thinking about problems that you can solve daily. Where do you all stand on this? Anirudh, if you could go first.
Yeah, interesting thing to see is, see, there's never a fixed time, right? Obviously, number one is that एक decent level of maturity ज़रूरी होती है before you can say scale this up. To be honest, मतलब we started in our second year of a college, just after the summer break, I remember. And उस time it started off as like वो थोड़ा feel में startup करेंगे वाला चीज़. And when you get into it very deep dive, एक साल बाद, and that's when it was very tricky, because then you are taking responsible decisions कि यार नहीं ठीक है, फिर placement में नहीं बैठना है, and we'll keep continuing this. So when that level of maturity is clear, right, for you as an individual, to enable you to take that choice where you know कि this. So when you're starting a startup, don't think of it as a 1 year or a 2 year or 3 year plan. Think of it as a 10 year plan कि अगर से 10 साल लंबी कंपनी बनानी है, तो उसके लिए उतना ही टाइम एनर्जी जाएगा, उसके हिसाब से उतनी ही लाइफ चॉइसेस जाएगी. अगर तुम्हें उतनी 10 साल वाली कंपनी नहीं बनानी, 3 साल में एक्वायर होना है, दैट्स ऑल्सो डिफरेंट मार्केट और डिफरेंट वे टू थिंक अबाउट इट. सो वही है, तो दीज आर स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसीजंस दैट यू नीड टू टेक very strongly, and it depends on the kind of person, the kind of team, the kind of product also. So yeah, so there's no fixed time, but I think it needs a certain sense of maturity, and it's not something that a world will define for you, it's something you will have to define for yourself.
Thank you, Anirudh. That was very informative. Kush,
Yeah, so as Anirudh said, there's no definite time. But people say the hardest thing is to start. And that is because, again, these are so many questions everyone has, right? कि कब करें, experience के बाद करें या फिर पहले करें, skill set बनाए ना बनाए. It is like that is not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is, again, do you feel the problem statement? Do you understand exactly what are you signing up for? And if you really believe in that, you will work on it, and that is very obvious. Like, for example, if you're I'm not saying it happens, but let's say unfortunately something happened to your hand and it get burned, so you'll do something to you help yourself and to relieve that pain. That is what you have to feel when you are doing a startup. You are signing up for that, and when you actually start feeling about the problem statement, you will understand the next steps accordingly. And I would rather say that it's better if you start early, because the cost of learning and the cost of taking a decision is very high when you are doing a job or when you have a family, because then you have to leave everything, then you have to think of other factors as well. When you are in college, when you are young, the only thing you care about is survival. That how will you survive, the salaries or the money you get, will you be able to live up to it for the next 3 4 years until you go for a family or responsibility. So the cost of learning is very less at this time. If you understand the problem well, if you feel about it, you just need to execute it, and you'll figure out the next steps accordingly. And there's also a TED talk that why startups succeed, what are the most 5 factors on it. So If you watch that, they have given examples of startups like YouTube and Uber, why they succeeded, whereas there were other startups as well doing the same problem statement and focusing on the same market. There are obviously the time is the factor that, is the market ready or not, but there's also a factor of the idea itself, how you execute the team itself, what is the team, what are the resources you have. And if you want to start, you just need to understand that, am I ready for the next 10 years? Am I ready to see the hardest of the times? And for me, when I decided to start, I also did various gigs while I was in college, first year, second year, third year. But when I came to this stage, I was obviously not sure कि यार मेरे को startup करना है कि नहीं करना है. आखिरी semester ही बचा था, and I skipped placements as well. And I thought कि if I will not be able to achieve a problem statement, I'll join someone else and help them build it. So for me, what worked was that when I tried to question myself that why shouldn't I start FamPay? Why shouldn't I help these teenagers to do learn financial literacy? There was no single answer. There was no single answer that why shouldn't I do it? And once you achieve that state, you know what to do next, and that is the time when you should start. When you have no single reason not to do it. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you so much, Kush. That was really informative for us to hear. That brought a lot of new thoughts. We are reaching the end of a time. I would really like to thank both of you all for being a part of Desert Hack and coming for this panel discussion and giving so much knowledge and information to us. It was really enjoyable also. Thank, thank
Thanks to
you.
you guys for having us here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It was our pleasure.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All the best, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.